Hi guys, my name is Luke Chapman and welcome to Learn FE. Today we're going to look at 3 things that I wish I knew as a beginner photographer. So tip number 1 is not all about the cameras. So the minimum requirement I need for a camera is that I can shoot in full manual mode, that has changeable lenses, and I can shoot it in camera raw. Now if it's got these 3 elements, then that camera is definitely good enough to produce every kind of photo that I'm generally looking for. Now let's have a look at it another way. The worst camera on the market today is better than the best camera on the market 50 years ago. And 50 years ago, they're taking some truly remarkable photos. So you don't need to worry about your camera gear. What you do need to worry about though is that you know how to use your camera. The better understanding you have of your camera, the better the quality of the photos. Your camera is just a tool at the end of the day. It's there to be used and abused and to get the results. It's not there to be cherished, and buying a newer camera is not necessarily going to do a better job. Although you might get a more of a refined job, focus on learning a camera and just get the minimum requirement that I just laid out above. Tip number 2 is manual mode does not necessarily make you a great photographer. And what do I mean by this? Well, I've taught loads of students in the past, and I always ask them on my courses, like, what do you want to learn as a photographer? And they go, oh, I want to be able to shoot in manual mode. And I'm like, so why do you want to do that? And they can never really give me a proper answer. So the reason why I shoot in manual mode and learn it is so then I don't have to worry about it. So I always like to think of myself as a dictator, and my world that I want to control is in my viewfinder. Now being able to shoot in full manual mode means that I have more control, just like a dictator would do in the real life circumstances. So my world is my viewfinder. So I want to be able to control the shutter speed, the ISO and aperture to get the results that I want. So what I always say to my students, we're going to teach you this, we're going to learn it as fast as possible, and then we're not going to worry about it, because what we really need to be worrying about are the 3 C's. What are the 3 C's I hear you say? Well, it's creativity, composition and concept. If you spend 90% of your time here, you're going to take a really, really good shot. And then if you add a bit of technical know-how as well, it's going to refine your photography. But let's say, for instance, you take a photo of a brick wall in full manual mode. You use the right shutter speed, ISO and aperture. Well, there's a very high chance that that photo is going to be dull and boring because you're photographing something of a dull and boring concept. Well, this is where the 3 C's come in really important. So my advice to you is learn manual mode, learn it as quickly as possible, then don't worry about it because there's so much more to focus on in photography. Okay, so let's come to my final tip, which is critiquing. And now this is one of the most important aspects of photography, and it's also the thing that no one really talks about. It always gets missed, I don't know why, but critiquing is so important in photography. Because it's the critiquing that helps you improve, and I find my biggest gains in photography is from being able to critique my own photos. Sometimes you'll go out and you take a really good shot, in theory. You got the right light, you got a beautiful subject, you're using the correct composition. You go home and put the photo on your computer and you have a look at it, and for whatever reason it just doesn't quite work. Well, this is why critiquing is really, really important, because it tells you exactly how to make that photo better. Maybe the composition is slightly off, maybe there's too much clutter in the background, perhaps you're using incorrect focal length or the light wasn't quite right. By finding answers to these questions will definitely help you in your photography. Now I find there's 2 places where I critique my photos. One is out in the field, so if I'm doing a portrait for instance and I take some photos, I look at the back of the viewfinder and very quickly scan the photo and make some slight changes. Now the second time I critique my photos, when I go home, download the photos onto the computer and look at them, and in a much more relaxed environment I can study the photos and can work out exactly how to make them better and what I can do to improve on them. Those are my tips. What tips do you have that you can help? Leave them down in the comments below. Anyway, I'll catch you guys next time, but before I go, don't forget to like and subscribe this video.